tall man in the gray hoodie and the tall man in the gray hoodie and the baseball cap pulled low over his eyes was one of the most famous human beings on the planet. She had no idea that he had recognized her the moment she looked up. And she had absolutely no idea that somewhere in the world, this man had a worn, cracked, 40-year-old notebook filled with her handwriting that he had carried with him into every single game of his career. His name was Michael Jordan, and the woman walking away from him with her grocery cart was the girl he had taken to prom back in 1984. Her name was Loretta. They had not seen each other in 40 years. She did not recognize him, not from his height, not from his face, or not from the way the other people in the store kept glancing at him like they were trying to figure out if he was who they thought he was. She just saw a stranger, a polite one, who had picked up her bag off the floor and handed it back to her. She was already turning back to her cart when he took one step toward her, and then he said something. Something so quiet, so specific, so completely impossible, that the bag slipped right back out of her hands. She pressed her palm against her chest. She could not breathe, because what he said were words that only one other person in the entire world could know. Words she had written down 40 years ago and never once spoken out loud. Not to her husband, not to her daughter, not to anyone. Words that lived in one place, in a notebook she had given away the summer she was 17 years old. In that moment, standing in the cereal aisle of a regular grocery store on a regular Tuesday morning, Loretta finally understood. And the stranger in the gray hoodie was not a stranger at all. He was the boy who couldn't slow dance. He was the boy who had cried at her kitchen table. He was the boy she had watched through a chain-link fence and written about in a 50-cent notebook because she believed, truly believed, before the world knew his name, before anyone else saw it, that she was watching someone about to become something extraordinary. She had been right, and for 40 years, without her knowing, he had been carrying her words with him everywhere he went. What did he say to her in that aisle? What was written in that notebook that meant so much to the greatest basketball player who ever lived? And what happened next? Right there between the Cheerios and the granola bars, will make you want to call someone you haven't spoken to in years and tell them you still think about something kind they once did for you. Stay with us, because this story starts 40 years ago, way in a gymnasium in Wilmington, North Carolina, where a lanky teenager in a rented burgundy tuxedo held out his hand to a girl in a yellow dress and said the most honest thing he had ever said to anyone. And it ends in a way that nobody, not Loretta, not her daughter, not the director of the small charity that suddenly received $2.3 million from an anonymous donor, saw coming. Watch the whole video. Michael Jeffrey Jordan was 18 years old and he was angry. Not the loud kind of angry. Not the kind that breaks things or raises voices or gets you sent to the principal's office. It was the quiet kind, the coiled kind, the kind that lives behind a person's eyes and turns into either destruction or greatness, depending on the day. 2 years before, Michael had been cut from the varsity basketball team at Laney High. Just cut, like a bad thread from a good shirt. The coach had looked at the list, looked at Michael, and shook his head. Michael had walked home in the rain that afternoon with his shoes soaked through and his jaw set so tight his back teeth hurt. He had gone straight to the gym the next morning before school, and the morning after that, and every morning after that for 2 years. By spring of 1984, Michael Jordan was the best basketball player anyone in Wilmington had ever seen. College coaches were calling the house. Scouts drove down from cities with big buildings and bigger dreams. People who had never once watched a high school game suddenly knew his name. He wore all of it lightly, the way people do when they are still not entirely sure they deserve it. But on the night of the 1984 prom, basketball was the last thing on his mind. Loretta Sims was the kind of girl who made teachers nervous, not because she caused trouble, but because she was smarter than most of them. She wore her hair in 2 long braids held with yellow rubber bands. She carried a dog-eared copy of a Toni Morrison novel in her bag at all times. She had a laugh that started somewhere deep in her chest and arrived late to her face. A warm, rolling laugh that made everyone around her feel like they had just won a small prize. Michael had first met Loretta in chemistry class junior year. He was not a natural student. She was not a natural athlete. She had no patience for his habit of tapping his pencil on the desk. Now she had no patience for her habit of correcting the teacher out loud. Somehow, from this pile of small irritations, a friendship grew. The way only teenage friendships can, completely and recklessly, and without any plan for what came next. He asked her to prom over a payphone call that lasted 45 minutes. She said yes after the first 30 seconds, but she let him sweat through the other 14 and a half minutes because she thought it was funny. He could hear her trying not to laugh on the other end of the line. He pretended to be annoyed. He was not annoyed. He never forgot that laugh. At the prom, Michael wore a rented burgundy tuxedo with a ruffle shirt he was already embarrassed about before he even left the house. Loretta wore a yellow dress she had sewn herself on her grandmother's old Singer sewing machine. It had taken her 3 weeks and 2 bad attempts. You could not tell. It was perfect. When the DJ put on a slow song, Lionel Richie, Hello, coming soft and warm through gym speakers, Michael Jordan held out his hand and said very quietly, "I don't really know how to slow dance." She took his hand without hesitating. "Neither do I," she said. She was lying. Loretta Sims was a beautiful dancer. She had been dancing since she was 4 years old in her grandmother's kitchen. But she went slow that night. She moved small and careful so he could keep up. And she never once made him feel like he was the one being taken care of. That is a rare thing. To let someone feel brave when you are the one doing the work. Walking to her parents' car at the end of the night, Michael stopped on the sidewalk under a yellow streetlight and said something he had never said aloud to anyone before. "I'm going to be the best basketball player who ever lived." He said it quietly, not boasting. I'm more like a man describing a mountain he has decided to climb. Terrified, but already committed. Like the decision had been made somewhere deeper than his own choosing. Loretta looked at him for a long moment. The streetlight caught the yellow of her dress. She tilted her head the way she did when she was thinking hard about something. Then she said, "Okay, then do it." No speech, no conditions, no list of warnings or practical advice. Just 5 words, steady and sure. As if greatness were simply a matter of following through. Nobody had ever said it quite like that. Not his coaches with their playbooks, not his parents with their love and their worry, not his teammates with their high fives and their good-natured doubt. Just okay, then do it. As if the only thing standing between Michael Jordan and greatness was his own permission to believe he could get there. He went home that night and wrote in the journal he kept hidden under his mattress, "Loretta Sims believes in me. I have to make her right." 3 months later, Michael Jordan was selected 3rd overall in the NBA draft by the Chicago Bulls. He left Wilmington. The world opened up and swallowed him whole. He never saw Loretta again, not for 40 years. Loretta Sims did not go to the University of North Carolina. She got in. That part is important. She was smart enough, easily. Her English teacher, Mrs. Paulette Greer, had written her a letter of recommendation so strong it made the admissions officer read it twice. Loretta had folded the acceptance letter and set it on her dresser and looked at it every morning for 2 weeks. Then her father had a stroke. It happened on a Thursday in August 1984, 17 days before her move-in date. Loretta was in the kitchen making iced tea when she heard the sound. A heavy, wrong sound. Eyes like furniture falling in a way furniture should not fall. She found her father on the bathroom floor. She called the ambulance. She rode with him to the hospital. She held her mother's hand in the waiting room for 6 hours without letting go. She never went back for the acceptance letter on her dresser. She enrolled at the local community college instead. She worked 20 hours a week at Eckerd Drugstore. Register, stocking shelves, closing up on Friday nights. She took the bus home. She helped her mother cook. She read her Morrison novels late at night when the house was quiet and everyone else was asleep. She never said she was bitter. And here is the thing. She genuinely wasn't. Some people carry sacrifice like a wound. Loretta carried it like a choice. There is a difference and it matters, and most people never learn how to do it. But there are choices that seal a life into a particular shape. And Loretta understood, in the quiet way that people who have been good without reward always do, that her shape had been decided in a hospital waiting room the same summer Michael Jordan was running drills at a Bulls practice facility in Chicago. She finished her degree in 4 years. She married a man named Gerald Broward in 1991. He drove a Pepsi delivery truck and coached Little League on weekends. He was not exciting. He was something better than exciting. He was steady. When he remembered their anniversary without being reminded. He made her coffee before she asked. He laughed at her jokes, even the ones that were not that funny. They had a daughter named Camille, who was now 30 years old and lived in Atlanta, and called every Sunday at noon without fail. Gerald died of a heart attack in 2017. He was 52 years old. He was here, and then he was not. That is the only way Loretta ever found to describe it. 2 years after Gerald died, Loretta was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. She went through treatment quietly. She told her neighbor, a retired postal worker named Dot, who showed up every Thursday with a container of soup, and did not ask how Loretta was feeling because Dot understood that sometimes being asked how you are feeling is the hardest thing in the world to answer. She did not tell anyone else. She went to her appointments alone. She drove herself home. She sat in her car in the driveway for a few minutes before going inside. She was in remission now. She walked 3 miles every morning before the neighborhood fully woke up. She had gone back to reading Morrison. She worked part-time at a literacy nonprofit called WordBridge that helped adults learn to read. Grown men and women who had spent their whole lives hiding the fact that words on a page were a locked door to them. Loretta helped them find the key. She was very good at it. She drove a 7-year-old Honda. She kept a small garden along the south side of her house, pansies, tomatoes, one stubborn rosemary bush that refused to die no matter what the weather did. She had recently started watching documentary series alone on Saturday nights with a bowl of popcorn that was slightly too large for one person. She had watched The Last Dance in 2020, the ESPN series about Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. She had sat in her living room and watched the boy from chemistry class become a myth on her television screen. She recognized the fire in his eyes immediately. She had seen that fire up close, across a kitchen table, long before any camera had ever caught it. She did not cry watching it. She felt something warmer than sadness and quieter than pride. Something like the feeling you get when a tree you planted years ago finally gives shade to someone who never knew you put it there. She had mentioned to Camille, almost as a small aside, that she had gone to prom with Michael Jordan. Camille had stared at her across the dinner table for a full 5 seconds. "Mama," she said, "you are lying to me right now." "I am not," Loretta said, and she turned back to her food. She had never looked him up, never written to him, never told the story to anyone who might turn it into something bigger than it was. The prom, the slow dance, the payphone call, and the night on the sidewalk under the yellow streetlight. All of it was hers, small and whole and clean, untouched by the enormous noise of what he had become. She had no idea he had kept the notebook. She had no idea he still read it. Back to the grocery store. Back to the granola box on the floor. Loretta had already pushed her cart past the cereal aisle. She had her list on her phone. Oat milk, olive oil, the good coffee Camille liked, because Camille was coming to visit next weekend. Loretta's mind was already halfway to the produce section when something made her stop. She could not have said what it was. Not a sound, not a word. More like a shift in the air. A pressure change, the way the sky feels different before rain, even before a single cloud shows up. During chemo, during the worst stretches of grief after Gerald died, Loretta had learned to pay attention to that feeling. The prickle at the back of the neck, the body knowing something before the mind catches up. She turned around. The man in the gray hoodie was still there. He had picked up the granola box from the floor, but he was not reading it anymore. He was watching her. Standing perfectly still in the middle of the cereal aisle of a grocery store on a Tuesday morning, holding a granola box, watching her the way you watch something you are afraid might disappear if you move too fast. There was something in his face that she had no word for. It was not the look of a stranger, but it was not the look of someone she knew either, at least not anyone she could name. It sat somewhere between recognition and restraint, like a man standing at the edge of a long drop, deciding. She studied his face the way she had always studied things, carefully, without rushing. And then something happened that she could not explain and would spend a long time afterward trying to. She saw it, not in the broad strokes of the famous face she had watched on television 4 years earlier. Not in the height or the build or the way he filled the aisle with a presence that had nothing to do with size. She saw it in the small things, the way he held his jaw, the angle of his chin when he was deciding something, the particular stillness that came over him right before he was about to move. She had seen all of that before, at a kitchen table in Wilmington, at a prom in a gymnasium that smelled like floor wax and too much cologne, one under a yellow streetlight on a sidewalk outside her parents' house 40 years ago. But that was impossible. People like that did not shop for granola on Tuesday mornings in regular grocery stores. People like that did not look at you from across a cereal aisle with the nervous, careful hope of an 18-year-old boy. People like that had been swallowed up by the world and turned into something too large and too bright to be standing in fluorescent light next to the Cheerios. She almost talked herself out of it. She had gotten as far as turning back toward her cart when he took one step toward her. And then he said something quiet, something specific, something so precise and so private and so utterly impossible that the grocery bag slipped clean out of her hand and hit the floor, and she did not notice it fall. She put her palm flat against her chest. She could not breathe. He had remembered something that only one other person on earth could know. Oh, a thing she had never spoken aloud, never repeated, never written down a second time. A thing that existed in only one place in the entire world, in the pages of a composition notebook she had given away on a July evening in 1984 and never thought about the exact wording of again. Her eyes filled. The grocery store hummed around them. A PA announcement echoed somewhere near the deli. A child 2 aisles over asked his mother for the cereal with the tiger on the box. The ordinary world kept going, completely unaware that something extraordinary was happening in the cereal aisle. What did he say? That answer is coming. But to understand why those words hit her the way they did, why they broke open a woman who had survived cancer and widowhood in quiet sacrifice without shedding a single public tear, you need to know what happened the summer before he left. You need to know what she gave him and why he never let it go. In the summer of 1984 moved the way summers do when something is ending. Fast and golden and slightly too bright, like a fire burning through the last of its wood. Michael Jordan was drafted in June. His name was in the newspaper. It was on the radio. It was in the mouths of people at the barber shop and the grocery store and the gas station on 5th Street. Wilmington had produced something extraordinary, and Wilmington knew it. And the knowing felt like both pride and a small grief. The way a town feels when one of